She stepped off the transport, her boots thudding against the dusty ground of the sniper school compound, her heart pounding like a war drum inside her chest. The sun beat down mercilessly, baking the earth beneath her, but she barely noticed her, focus razor-sharp as she scanned the imposing buildings and the hardened faces of the instructors gathered nearby. They watched her with cold eyes, no smiles, no welcome, just silent judgment. Her name whispered like a challenge among the recruits, but no one dared speak it aloud. She felt the weight of their doubt pressing down on her, heavier than the gear strapped to her back. This was the moment she had dreamed of. Yet it already felt like a battlefield, far more brutal than any combat zone. Her footsteps carried her forward through the training grounds, the scent of gunpowder and sweat thick in the air. She knew this place was designed to break those who were weak, to strip away the soft layers until only the strongest remained. But she was not weak. Not anymore. Not since the day they told her she didn't belong. Not since the officers dismissed her with a cold glance and told her she lacked what it took to be a sniper. The sting of rejection burned deep in her soul. But beneath it was a fierce fire that refused to be extinguished. She found a quiet corner of the range where she could gather her thoughts away from the judging eyes. She knelt beside her rifle, feeling the smooth metal cool against her skin. Her fingers traced the barrel, the scope, the trigger, the parts that had become extensions of herself in every lonely hour spent practicing. Every breath she took carried memories of nights spent alone under the stars, perfecting her aim, dreaming of the moment her skills would silence the doubters. The first exercise was a simple test of marksmanship, but to her it was a crucible. She lined up the sight on the distant target, the wind teasing the leaves around her. She squeezed the trigger and the rifle roared. Her shot cut through the air and struck true. Yet the response from the instructors was dismissive. They murmured among themselves, criticizing her form, her timing, her calm. Her heart sank, but she held her ground. Their doubt only sharpened her resolve. Days passed, and each challenge became harder, physical drills that pushed her to the edge, mental puzzles designed to confuse and break focus. She stumbled at times, faltered, and felt the weight of exhaustion crushing her. But every time she fell, she pulled herself back up, pushing past the pain and the fear. Her mind replayed the voices that told her she wouldn't make it and turned them into fuel for her fire. During a late-night run, her lungs burning and muscles screaming, she found herself alone on the training hill beneath a blanket of stars. The silence wrapped around her like a shield, and she let herself dream. For a moment, she was not the rejected trainee, but a warrior moving unseen through enemy lines. A sniper whose bullet decided the fate of battles. Her heart pounded in rhythm with that vision, and she vowed silently to make it real. The instructors announced the final evaluation, a test of endurance, accuracy, and nerve. She knew the stakes were higher than ever. This was her last chance to prove she belonged, but deep down she sensed the odds were against her. The memories of cold faces and harsh words echoed in her mind like a relentless storm. On the day of the test, she moved with a strange calm, her rifle heavy in her hands. Her breath slowed, her heartbeat steady as she prepared to face the targets one by one. The wind shifted and the sun dipped low, casting long shadows over the range. She steadied her aim, took a breath, and fired. The shots rang out sharp and true, each one a promise, a defiance to those who said she couldn't. Her focus was absolute. The world around her fading until only the rifle, the target, and her remained. But as the last bullet found its mark, she felt a heavy silence descend. The instructors gathered, around their faces unreadable. Her chest tightened with anticipation. Then suddenly the lead instructor shook his head slowly. "You do not have what it takes," they said, their voices cold, final. The words hit her like a blow, cutting deeper than any wound she had known. She swallowed hard, fighting back the storm of emotions raging inside. She had come so far, yet been sent back to the shadows. But even as she turned away from the compound that day, a fierce promise burned inside her. She would not let rejection be the end of her story. Her rifle's voice had only just begun to speak, and one day it would tell a tale so powerful no one could ignore it. Not the instructors, not the world, and certainly not herself. The sun set behind the mountains, casting long, dark fingers across the training grounds as she disappeared into the night carrying nothing but her rifle and an unbreakable will to fight for her place in the shadows where true warriors are made. She disappeared into the cold night, leaving behind the harsh lights and judgment of the sniper school, but the fire inside her only grew stronger. Every step she took carried the weight of the rejection, but also the promise of vengeance. Her rifle, slung over her shoulder, felt heavier now, not with doubt, but with purpose. The moon cast a pale glow on the deserted roads as she pushed forward, refusing to let the darkness swallow her dreams. Her world shrank to the rhythm of her heartbeat and the steady pulse of breath in her lungs. She found refuge in abandoned buildings and forgotten fields, places where no one would question her presence. Here she trained harder than ever before, pushing her body beyond limits, her muscles screaming for relief, but her mind sharper than ever, calculating every movement, every shot until it was flawless. The nights were long and filled with the sound of whispered winds and the crack of her rifle testing targets. She set up alone in the shadows. Her fingers grew calloused from tightening the scope, from adjusting the trigger, from carrying the weight of her ambition. She imagined the faces of the instructors who had turned her away, their cold eyes burning with disbelief when they heard her name again. Not as a failure, but as a ghost, a force. No one could stop. She remembered the taste of bitterness after that final test, the sinking feeling of being dismissed, yet she refused to be broken. Instead, she forged herself in the crucible of solitude. Every missed shot a lesson, every small victory a spark of hope. Her training became an obsession, a silent battle between her doubts and the fierce desire to prove them wrong. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months as she lived, in the shadows perfecting her craft. She learned to read the wind like a whisper, to feel the rhythm of the earth beneath her boots, to control the tremors in her hands that could betray even the best aim. She ran miles with weights strapped to her, back endured hunger and cold, pushed through exhaustion and pain, all in the name of mastery. Her rifle became an extension of her very being, every inch of its cold metal familiar, every sound it made etched into her memory. She practiced shooting, from every position, every angle, learning to vanish into the environment around her, like a ghost in the night. Her mind mapped out invisible targets, scenarios she created in her solitude, preparing for battles. She was determined to win the world. Outside continued unaware of the transformation taking place in that forgotten corner of the world. Her name faded from the lips of instructors, replaced by silence. But she knew deep down the story was far from over. The rifle's kill count had not yet begun, but soon it would speak louder than words or judgments. One cold morning, as dawn painted the sky with pale orange, she received a call for deployment to a hostile zone. Her unit was trapped and needed every sharpshooter available. She grabbed, her gear heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. This was the moment. She had been training for the moment, to show that rejection was not the end, but a brutal beginning. The journey to the front lines was tense, the air thick with danger and uncertainty. Every sound, a possible threat. Every shadow, a potential enemy. Her pulse raced, but her hands were steady, her mind sharp as the memories of every lonely hour of training flooded back. She was no longer the rejected trainee, but a hunter, ready to strike. As she arrived, the chaos of battle engulfed her, the deafening roar of gunfire, the screams of the wounded, the acrid smell of smoke and dust. Her unit was scattered, pinned down by unseen enemies moving like shadows among the ruins. She scanned the landscape, seeking the perfect vantage point, a place where her rifle could sing its deadly song, crawling silently over rubble and broken earth. She found a ruined building that offered cover and a clear line of sight. Her breath slowed, her heartbeat steady as she raised her rifle, adjusted the scope, and waited. The first target appeared briefly, a figure moving against the fading light. Her finger tightened on the trigger, and the shot rang out. 1 kill, 2 kills, 3. Each bullet, a message to those who thought she was weak or unworthy. Her presence was invisible, her impact devastating. The enemy grew confused, fearful of a ghost they could not see. The kill count etched in her mind, mounting with every strike, but still she moved with cautious precision. Her team sent quiet messages of relief and gratitude through the radio channels, but she did not respond. She could not allow herself distraction or doubt. The night stretched on, filled with danger and silence, broken only by the crack of her rifle. The line between life and death blurred with every heartbeat. When the mission ended and the enemy was driven back, she lowered her rifle, her hands trembling not from fear, but from the sheer weight of what she had done. The kill count on her rifle was no longer a secret, but a silent testament to her strength and skill. The shadow of rejection had lifted, replaced by a fierce pride, burning deep inside. Back at base, the whispers began again, but this time they carried a different tone. Some spoke of a sniper so deadly, so precise, that even the toughest instructors were forced to reconsider. Others wondered who this woman was, whose rifle told a story louder than any words. Yet she remained silent, choosing to let her actions speak louder than doubts. In the quiet moments before sleep, she touched her rifle gently, feeling the cool metal beneath her fingers. The journey was far from over, but she knew one thing for certain. She was no longer the girl rejected by sniper school, but a warrior forged in fire and silence, ready to face whatever lay ahead with her rifle and unbreakable will. The night closed in around her like a cloak as she prepared for the next mission. Her eyes sharp, her heart steady, she was ready to write the next chapter in her story, a story that would be told not through acceptance, but through the sound of her rifle and the kill count that could not be denied. She moved through the dense jungle under the cover of darkness, her breath steady and silent, every step calculated to avoid snapping twigs or rustling leaves. The weight of her rifle was a familiar comfort resting against her shoulder like a trusted companion. The mission was clear. Find the enemy patrol that had been ambushing supply lines and eliminate them before more lives were lost. Her heart pounded, not with fear, but with the cold focus of a hunter stalking prey. The night air was thick, with the scent of damp earth and distant smoke. Flickers of torchlight danced among the trees ahead, marking the enemy's path. She adjusted her grip on the rifle, feeling the cold metal steady her nerves. Her eyes narrowed as she tracked the movements of the figures moving slowly between the trees. The slightest sound could give away her position, but she was a ghost, unseen, unheard, a shadow blending with the darkness. She found a high vantage point atop a rocky outcrop where she could see the patrol below clearly. Her breath slowed, her heartbeat steadying as she raised the rifle and looked through the scope. The first target appeared, a young soldier scanning the path, unaware of the silent death poised above. He was a threat to her comrades, a danger that had to be removed. She held her breath and squeezed the trigger. The shot cracked through the night and the soldier dropped without a sound. The rest of the patrol reacted in confusion, their shouts lost in the thick jungle as they scrambled for cover. But she was already shifting her position, moving like a shadow to stay hidden. Their panic was her advantage. Each mistake they made a chance for another perfect shot. Her kill count rose with every pull of the trigger. Each bullet a message, carved in silence, time stretched thin as she battled fatigue and the creeping chill in her bones. The jungle seemed to close in around her, the cacophony of the enemy's movements echoing like a distant storm. She ignored the aching muscles and dry throat, focusing solely on the task at hand. The safety of her team depended on her precision and patience. A sudden noise behind her made her freeze her instincts, screaming for silence. Her head snapped around slowly, a rustle in the bushes. Fleeting shadow. She held her breath. The rifle raised, ready to fire, but the danger passed without incident. The moment of terror only sharpened her senses, reminding her that in this deadly game, one mistake could mean death. She shifted again, repositioning herself to get a better angle on the remaining enemies. The moonlight barely penetrated the thick canopy, casting eerie patterns on the forest floor. The patrol was down to half its number, desperate and disorganized, but still deadly. Her finger itched. On the trigger, every shot mattered, every heartbeat could be the last. Suddenly, the radio crackled with a frantic message, her squad trapped under heavy fire with no chance of escape. She felt the surge of adrenaline flood her veins, knowing that the next shots could save lives or doom them all. She adjusted her sights, aimed carefully, and fired. The bullet flew true, hitting the enemy machine gunner, silencing the weapon and giving her team a chance to break free. The firefight raged around her, but she remained a calm force of destruction, picking off threats with ruthless efficiency. Her kill count climbed higher each moment, a silent testament to her skill and resolve. She was no longer the rejected trainee, but a sniper feared and respected by friend and foe alike. When the battle finally ended, she descended from her perch, moving swiftly to regroup with her team. Their faces were a mixture of relief and awe as they saw the woman who had turned the tide of the fight. Her rifle was heavy, with the weight of victory and loss alike. The jungle had tested her, and she had emerged stronger, more lethal than ever, back at base. The stories of the ghost sniper spread like wildfire, inspiring whispers of hope and fear. Her name was still not spoken aloud, but her presence was felt everywhere. Her rifle's kill count had become a legend, a silent roar in the darkness that refused to be ignored. In the quiet aftermath, she allowed herself a moment to breathe, to feel the exhaustion settle deep in her bones. But even then, her mind raced with plans, training strategies, and the inevitable next mission. She was not done yet. Far from it. The war was not over, and neither was her fight for respect and recognition. Her journey had taken her from rejection to deadly precision, from silence to unstoppable force. Her rifle told a story not of words, but of survival, sacrifice, and the relentless pursuit of excellence. The kill count etched in her memory was not just numbers, but the proof that she belonged, the proof that she was more than anyone had ever believed. As night fell once more, she looked up at the stars, their cold light a reminder of the battles yet to come. She tightened her grip on her rifle and stepped into the darkness, ready to face whatever waited hidden in the shadows, knowing that every shot she fired brought her closer to the destiny she had fought so hard to claim. Her breath came slow and steady as she crept through the ruins of the abandoned village. The once vibrant homes, now nothing more than broken walls and shattered dreams. The air hung heavy with the scent of smoke and decay, a silent testament to battles fought long before her arrival. She moved with deliberate grace, her eyes scanning every shadow, every crack for signs of movement, her rifle poised ready to unleash death at a moment's notice. The sun dipped low, casting long, eerie shadows that stretched like fingers across the crumbling streets. The silence was suffocating, but she knew it was a trap, the calm before the storm. Her heart pounded with the weight of unseen eyes, watching, waiting for the slightest mistake. She was alone. A lone predator stalking a pack of wolves hidden among the ruins. Her kill count had grown, but here every shot mattered more than ever. She found a vantage point atop a half-collapsed roof where the view stretched across the village and the dense forest beyond. Her fingers tightened on the rifle as she scanned the area below. A group of enemy combatants moved cautiously between the wreckage, their voices low and tense. They were dangerous, experienced fighters, not easily caught off guard. She took a deep breath, felt the familiar rhythm of her heartbeat slow as she steadied her aim. The first target stepped into view, a sniper himself scanning for threats, oblivious to the hunter perched above. She squeezed the trigger and the crack of the shot shattered the silence. The enemy sniper fell like a puppet with cut strings and chaos erupted below. The remaining enemies scattered, diving for cover, their shouts a mix of anger and fear. But she was already shifting her position, moving, like a shadow across the rooftops. Her kill count climbed with every shot, each bullet a silent warning to those who dared challenge her. The enemy was desperate, now reckless, making mistakes she exploited with ruthless precision. The village became a deadly chessboard. Her movements calculated, every shot a strategic strike. Her senses were razor-sharp. Every sound amplified, every breath measured. She danced with danger, her rifle singing a deadly lullaby that echoed through the ruins. The weight of her past rejection fueled her every move, her resolve unbreakable. Suddenly a flare burst into the sky, bathing the village in harsh red light. The enemy was calling reinforcements, signaling their desperation and determination. She knew time was running out, the odds were stacking against her, and yet she refused to yield. Her kill count was no longer just a number, it was a testament to her survival. Her unyielding will, as the enemy reinforcements poured in, she faced a new wave of threats, faster, smarter, and more lethal. The battle became a blur of motion, gunfire explosions, and cries of pain. But through the chaos, she remained calm, focused, relying on every ounce of training and instinct. Her rifle barked out orders of death, silencing foes before they could strike. Her body screamed with exhaustion, her vision blurred, but she pushed through the pain, driven by a fire that would not be quenched. The kill count on her rifle was etched deep in her mind, a lifeline in the storm. She was no longer the girl rejected by sniper school, but a warrior carved from the very chaos of war. In a desperate moment, she found herself surrounded a dozen enemies, closing in with ruthless intent. Her back pressed against cold stone, her rifle, her only defense. She took a steadying breath, aimed carefully, and fired. The bullets flew in a deadly rhythm, cutting through the encroaching threat one by one until silence fell again. The village lay quiet once more, the enemy defeated, but not without cost. Her hands shook as she lowered her rifle, the weight of victory and loss settling heavily on her shoulders. She was battered, bruised, but alive, stronger in ways no one could see. When she returned to base, the stories of the battle spread like wildfire. Her kill count, now legendary, a whispered myth among the troops. Those who had doubted her before could no longer ignore the deadly force she had become. Yet she said little, letting her rifle tell the story louder than any words could. That night, as she lay beneath a thin blanket, the stars hidden by clouds, she thought of the journey that had brought her here. The rejection, the solitude, the endless nights of training, all leading to this moment. Her rifle was no longer just a weapon, but a symbol of her defiance and strength. She closed her eyes and let the memories wash over her, the faces of fallen enemies, the cries of comrades saved the silence of the hunt. It was a story written in blood and courage, one she would carry with her forever. The kill count etched on her rifle was the proof she had fought and won against all odds. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new battles, and more chances to prove herself. But for now, she allowed herself a moment of peace, a brief respite from the endless fight. She was ready to face whatever came next, because she was no longer just a trainee. She was a sniper, a ghost, a legend born from rejection and forged in fire. The base was buzzing with whispers, the kind that slipped through barracks like a slow wildfire. Her name was on everyone's lips, though no one dared speak it too loudly. Yet the stories of the sniper who struck like a ghost and vanished into the shadows were spreading fast, from the lowliest private to the hardened officers who once doubted her skill. Her kill count was becoming something more than just numbers. It was a symbol of fear, respect, and unanswered questions. She moved through the camp like a shadow, avoiding the curious stares and hushed conversations, her eyes sharp scanning every face, knowing some still carried the cold judgment that had once tried to crush her spirit. Yet there were others who looked at her with something new, something like awe, or perhaps a grudging respect. She felt their eyes on her, but she kept her silence, letting her actions speak louder than words. The instructors who had dismissed her watched from a distance, their faces unreadable, but their eyes betraying a flicker of something. She recognized pride mixed with disbelief. They were forced to reckon with the fact that the girl they had rejected was now one of the deadliest sharpshooters in the field. Her kill count was proof enough she could not be ignored or underestimated anymore. Rumors swirled of her exploits behind enemy lines, how she had single-handedly turned the tide of skirmishes, saved entire squads with nothing but her rifle and nerves of steel. Some called her a miracle. Others whispered she was a weapon forged in fire and silence. Whatever the truth, the effect was undeniable. She had become a legend in the making, a beacon of hope for the troops and a nightmare for the enemy. Despite the growing legend, she remained, focused, her mind sharp as ever, training relentlessly, pushing herself harder each day. Her time alone in the wilds had taught her the importance of discipline, patience, and relentless pursuit of perfection. She refined every skill, every breath, every shot, preparing for the inevitable battles that lay ahead. The pressure to prove herself now was greater than ever. The eyes of the entire base were watching, waiting to see if she could maintain the deadly precision and calm that had become her trademark. The instructors set new challenges, tests designed to push her to the brink, hoping to find a flaw to shatter the myth. But she met each trial with unwavering determination, refusing to let doubt creep back in. One afternoon during a simulated mission, she was tasked with eliminating multiple targets under severe time constraints. The course was designed to break even the most experienced snipers, but she moved through it with a deadly grace. Every shot counted, every movement calculated. Her kill count on the range matched the stories in the field, a perfect record that silenced even the harshest critics. The victory was bittersweet, though, as she knew real combat was far more brutal, unpredictable, and unforgiving. But this moment was hers, a small triumph in the long war for acceptance and respect. She allowed herself a fleeting smile, knowing she had taken one more step toward proving her worth. Back in the quiet moments when the world was still, and her rifle rested by her side, she reflected on how far she had come. The rejection, the isolation, the endless nights of training all seemed distant. Memories replaced by a new reality where she was no longer invisible, but indispensable. Her rifle had become her voice, a tool of justice and survival. Her teammates began to seek her out for advice and guidance, drawn by the aura of calm and deadly efficiency that surrounded her. She found herself mentoring others, sharing the hard-earned lessons learned in the shadows of doubt and battle. Her kill count was no longer just a number. It was a legacy passed on to those who followed, as rumors of a major enemy offensive reached the base. The mood shifted from quiet confidence to tense anticipation. She knew the coming battles would test everything she had built, her skills, her courage, and her unbreakable will. The kill count on her rifle was a reminder of the lives she had saved and the price she had paid, and it steeled her for what was to come when the call came to deploy. She felt a familiar rush of adrenaline mixed with a deep calm. She was ready, no longer the rejected trainee, but a warrior forged by fire and silence. Her rifle was loaded, her mind clear, and her heart steady as she prepared to step once more into the storm. The world outside the base was a battlefield where shadows moved like ghosts, and death waited in every breath. But she was no longer afraid. She was a sniper, a force unseen but deadly, known by the kill count, etched not just on her rifle, but in the hearts of all who fought beside her. As the sun set, casting long shadows over the camp, she stood quietly watching the horizon, her rifle resting lightly in her hands. The journey was far from over, but she was no longer alone or forgotten. Her story was still being written with every shot, every victory, every sacrifice. Her kill count spoke louder than any words. It was the song of a warrior who refused to be silenced. The morning broke cold and gray over the military base, a thin mist clinging to the earth like a shroud. She stood at the edge of the training field, rifle in hand, eyes scanning the horizon. Her body ached from relentless drills, and her mind buzzed. With anticipation, the instructors had devised a new test, one that would push her to the limits of endurance, skill, and nerve. They wanted to see if the legend could withstand the pressure. If the kill count was more than just luck, the course stretched. Out before her, a brutal gauntlet of moving targets concealed enemies and obstacles designed to confuse and disorient. The sun peeked through clouds, casting shifting shadows across the terrain, making every shot a challenge. Her heartbeat hammered. In her ears as she adjusted her stance, breath steadying the rifle settled against her shoulder. The first targets appeared quick and fleeting. Her fingers squeezed the trigger, sending bullets that tore through the air, finding marks with deadly precision. Each hit echoed her relentless training, her hours alone in the wilderness, every sacrifice made to reach this point. The kill count climbed steadily, each successful shot a step closer to silencing her critics. But the course was not just about marksmanship. It was a test of patience and mental fortitude. Her vision blurred from sweat and fatigue, yet she forced herself to focus on the rhythm of breathing, the sway of the rifle. The world around her faded until only the target, the shot, and the cold steel remained. She was no longer a girl rejected, but a warrior fighting for every breath. Midway through the challenge, a sudden explosion rocked the field, sending debris flying and clouds of dust into the air. The instructors had thrown a simulated ambush to mimic real combat pressure. Her instincts kicked in her training, sharpening every sense as she tracked moving shapes, weaving through smoke and chaos. Her rifle barked out orders of death, cutting down threats one by one. Her kill count soared as she moved with deadly grace, using cover and concealment to her advantage. Every shot was a calculated risk, a gamble that paid off in lives saved and enemies neutralized. The instructors watched in stunned silence, unable to deny the raw skill and determination on display. Their doubt slowly crumbled, replaced by grudging respect. The final stage was the most grueling, requiring her to fire accurately while on the move across uneven terrain. Her legs burned and lungs burned with exertion, but she pushed forward, relentless. Her eyes never left the targets, even as fatigue threatened to steal her focus. She fired each round with precision, knowing failure was not an option. As the last target fell silent, a heavy silence descended over the field. The instructors gathered around, their faces unreadable, but their eyes spoke volumes. The kill count was perfect. No mistakes, no missed shots, just a flawless display of skill and endurance. The very same instructors who had rejected her now stood humbled before the warrior she had become. Her body trembled from exhaustion as she lowered her rifle, but inside a fierce pride burned brighter than ever. The journey from rejection to legend had been long, brutal, and lonely, but it had forged something unbreakable. Her kill count was more than a number. It was proof that she belonged, proof that she was a force to be reckoned with. Back in the barracks, her teammates greeted her with nods of respect and quiet congratulations. Their acceptance was a balm for the wounds of doubt and isolation she had carried for so long. Yet she remained humble, knowing that every victory was just another battle in the endless war she faced. The instructors held a meeting behind closed doors discussing her future, their voices a mix of admiration and concern. They recognized her talent, but also the fire that drove her, a dangerous combination that could either lead to greatness or destruction. The kill count on her rifle was a warning, a promise, and a challenge all at once. In the quiet moments alone, she reflected on the road ahead, the battles yet to come, and the price she was willing to pay. Her rifle was her voice, her shield, and her sword, a constant companion in a world where trust was scarce and survival uncertain. She tightened her grip, feeling the cold metal steady her resolve. The night fell thick and dark outside the base, but inside her mind burned with plans, strategies, and unspoken promises she would continue to rise to. Every challenge, every test proving with every shot that rejection was not the end, but the beginning of something far greater. Her kill count was no longer just a tally. It was a story, a legacy of resilience, courage, and the relentless pursuit of excellence. As she prepared for the next mission, the echoes of the past rejection faded further, replaced by the roar of a warrior who refused to be denied. She was ready now, more than ever, to face the darkness, the chaos, and the dangers that awaited. Beyond the shadows, her rifle waited silent and deadly, a promise that every shot fired would carve her name deeper into the history of those who fight and never surrender. The radio crackled sharply, piercing the tense silence of the camp. Her team was pinned down in a narrow canyon surrounded by enemy forces, their voices urgent, desperate, pleading for cover fire and extraction. She felt a surge of adrenaline rush through her veins, her heart pounding like a drumbeat signaling the moment she had been training for. The weight of her rifle grounded her, steadying her nerves. Her breath slowed, steadying her aim. This was no simulation. This was real, and lives depended on her. She moved swiftly through the rocky terrain shadows, stretching long in the fading light. Her boots crushed dry gravel as she searched for the perfect vantage point, somewhere high and concealed. From the ridge, she could see the trapped squad, their figures small and vulnerable against the advancing enemy, their backs pressed against jagged rocks, their movements frantic but resolute. The enemy closed in like wolves, their shouts carrying over the wind a cruel reminder of the danger that lurked. Her fingers wrapped tightly around the rifle, her eyes locked on the first target, a machine gunner whose fire pinned down her comrades. The distance was great, but her training had prepared her for this moment. Every breath she took was measured, every heartbeat synchronized with the rhythm of the rifle. She steadied the scope, lined up the shot, and fired. The bullet tore through the air, finding its mark and silencing the deadly weapon. The squad's radio crackled again, relief washing over the frantic voices. Their movements grew more confident, emboldened by the reprieve, but danger was far from over. More enemy reinforcements poured into the canyon, their approach relentless and calculated. She shifted her position quickly, darting between rocky outcrops, moving like a ghost to maintain the advantage. Each shot she fired was a lifeline, cutting down threats before they could strike. Her kill count climbed rapidly, each target falling silent under her relentless gaze. She was a force of nature, cold, calm, and deadly in the chaos of battle. The enemy scrambled to adapt, but her presence was invisible, a shadow of death they could neither see nor predict. The canyon echoed with gunfire, explosions, and shouted commands, but amidst The chaos, she remained focused. Her rifle became an extension of her will. Every shot, a calculated strike. Every breath, a step closer to victory. Fatigue clawed at her body muscles, screamed for rest. But she pushed forward, fueled by determination. And the weight of responsibility. Suddenly, an enemy sniper took aim at her position. A bullet whistling past, narrowly missing its mark. She froze for a heartbeat, heart racing as she located the sniper's perch. Her finger tightened on the trigger, firing a precise shot that ended the threat before it could strike again. The kill count on her rifle rose, further proof of her deadly efficiency and quick reflexes. The trapped squad began to move under cover of her fire, picking their way through the deadly terrain. She provided overwatch, picking off pursuers, giving them the precious seconds they needed to escape. The bond between sniper and squad was silent, but unbreakable, forged in the fire of combat and trust. As the last enemy fled or fell silent, the canyon grew still again. The sun dipped below the horizon, bathing the landscape in blood-red light. Her body trembled with exhaustion, but her eyes burned with fierce pride. She had turned the tide, saved lives, and proved beyond doubt. That rejection was not the end, but a prelude to greatness. Back at camp, the squad greeted her with tired smiles and grateful nods. Their respect was a balm for the wounds of doubt and rejection she had carried for so long. Her rifle rested against her shoulder, a silent witness to the battle fought and won. The kill count etched into her memory was a story of courage, sacrifice, and unyielding resolve. In the quiet that followed, she allowed herself a moment to reflect on the journey. The lonely nights of training, the harsh words of instructors, the endless fight to prove herself had all led to this moment of triumph. But the war was far from over, and she knew the next challenge awaited beyond the horizon. Her rifle was ready, her mind sharp, and her heart steady as she prepared to step once more into the shadows of war. The kill count was more than a number. It was a legacy, a testament to the woman who refused to be broken, who rose from rejection to become a legend, whispered in the dark corners of the battlefield as night embraced the camp. She looked up at the stars, their cold light a reminder of the battles yet to come. She tightened her grip on her rifle and whispered a silent promise to herself and those she protected, that every shot fired would be one step closer to victory, and every enemy downed a chapter in the story of a warrior born from fire and silence. The battlefield was cloaked in darkness, save for the faint glow of distant fires and the restless flicker of stars obscured by drifting clouds. She moved silently through the rubble of a once thriving town, now reduced to shattered walls and silent echoes. Her breath was steady, her steps deliberate as she hunted shadows, her rifle cradled like a part of her very soul. The mission was clear: eliminate high-value targets, disrupting supply routes, and cripple the enemy's command. But this was no ordinary fight. It was a test of patience and precision that would define her legacy. Her eyes scanned the horizon, tracing silhouettes that moved like ghosts among the ruins. Every muscle was coiled, ready to spring, every nerve alert to the slightest sound. The weight of her rifle was a comfort in the cold night air, a reminder of the power she wielded with deadly grace. She found a vantage point atop a crumbled building where the view stretched far and wide, allowing her to see the enemies. Movements in chilling detail. A group of officers emerged from the shadows, their voices low, urgent, plotting. The next strike, unaware that death watched silently from above. Her finger tightened on the trigger, her breath slowing as she lined up the perfect shot. The first bullet shattered the night, sending one of them tumbling silently into the darkness. The chaos that followed was swift and ruthless, as confusion spread through the enemy ranks. She shifted her position seamlessly, moving like a phantom among the ruins, avoiding detection. Her kill count rose steadily, each shot a whisper of vengeance against those who underestimated her. The enemy scrambled to find the source of the deadly precision, but she remained untouchable, a shadow. That haunted their every move. The cold air bit at her skin. Exhaustion gnawed at her limbs, but she refused to relent. The rifle was more than a weapon. It was an extension of her will, a voice speaking in the language of silence and death. Every target she took down was a statement, a challenge to the doubts that once tried to erase her existence. Suddenly, a flare burst overhead, flooding the battlefield with harsh light, revealing her position briefly, but she was already moving, shifting like smoke. Through the broken streets, her heart pounded with the thrill of the hunt every second, a battle between life and death. The kill count on her rifle was no longer just a number, but a testament to survival and relentless courage. She encountered enemy. Patrols desperate to flush her out, their footsteps pounding like thunder around her. But she was always one step ahead, anticipating their moves and striking with lethal efficiency. Her rifle sang a deadly song, every bullet, a note of defiance and power. The battle became a dance of shadows, gunfire and whispered prayers. Hours passed like minutes as the night stretched endlessly. Her body ached and vision blurred, but her mind remained sharp, honed by months of training and years of rejection. The line between hunter and hunted blurred as she wove through the darkness, her rifle speaking louder than any voice could. At last the enemy command post was in sight, a fortress of steel and stone, guarded by vigilant sentries. She took a deep breath, steadying her nerves, knowing that the final shots would decide the fate of many. Her kill count was high, but the most dangerous targets lay ahead. Her finger tightened on the trigger, and she fired with deadly precision, taking out the guards silently. And swiftly, inside the compound, chaos erupted, confusion and fear spreading like wildfire as she picked off commanders, disrupting communication and sending the enemy into disarray. The kill count on her rifle reached a number that once would have seemed impossible. A story told in silence and blood. When the dawn finally broke, she melted back into the shadows, disappearing like a ghost, leaving behind only whispers of her deadly passage. The battlefield was hers for a moment, but the war raged on, endless and unforgiving. Her rifle was heavy with the weight of victory and loss, alike a symbol of a warrior who refused to be broken. Back at base, the tales of the night spread rapidly. Her kill count celebrated in hushed tones and awe-filled glances. The woman who had once been rejected was now a legend, a force that turned the tide of battle with nothing but her rifle and indomitable will. Yet she remained humble, silent, letting her actions speak louder than any praise in the quiet aftermath. She stared at the rifle, tracing the cold metal with worn fingers. Her journey had been brutal, lonely and filled with doubt, but it had forged her into something unbreakable. The kill count was no longer a mark of survival, but a legacy of courage, sacrifice, and relentless determination. As night settled once more, she prepared for the next mission, her eyes burning with fierce resolve. Her rifle was ready, her spirit unyielding. She was no longer the girl cast aside, but a warrior carved from fire and shadow, a legend whose story was written one shot at a time. The summons came unexpectedly in the early morning light. Her heart raced as she stood at attention outside the commander's office. The same men and women who had dismissed her now looked at her with measured respect, their eyes no longer cold, but filled with a grudging acknowledgement that she had become something far greater than they ever imagined. She was being called back to Marine Sniper School, not as a student, but as a symbol of perseverance and triumph. Walking through the gates, she felt the weight of the past pressing on her every step. The barracks, the training grounds, the familiar echoes of doubt and judgment all swirled in her mind. Yet this time, the air was different, charged with a new energy of possibility and recognition. The instructors who once rejected her now stood silent, watching as she moved with quiet confidence, carrying the story of every shot fired, every life saved. The final test awaited a brutal examination of skill, endurance, and mental strength. The course had been redesigned, a challenge meant to break the strongest candidates, to separate legends from pretenders. She knew failure was not an option for her. This was more than a test. It was a chance to rewrite the narrative that had shadowed her from the start. The morning sun climbed higher as she stepped onto the range, her rifle steady in her hands. Her breath slowed, steadying her nerves as the first targets appeared distant and elusive. The challenge was greater than ever, requiring precision. Shots from impossible angles and under extreme pressure, every heartbeat echoed the silent battle within between doubt and determination. The instructors watched with growing astonishment as she moved through the course like a force of nature. Her kill count rising with every perfect shot, every target falling silent before her relentless gaze. It was not just marksmanship, but a symphony of focus, patience, and raw courage. The girl they had rejected had become a warrior forged in fire, and silence midway through the test, a sudden simulation of enemy fire erupted around her, explosions and gunshots filling the air, forcing her to adapt and react instantly. Her training in the wilds kicked in, instincts honed through countless nights, alone guiding every movement, every shot. She weaved through the chaos, her rifle singing a deadly song, cutting down threats with deadly grace. Fatigue clawed at her muscles and mind, but she pushed beyond the limits, refusing to yield. Each target was a promise, a declaration that she belonged, that her kill count was the voice that silenced all doubt. The final moments of the test arrived, her heart pounding, the last target in sight. She took a deep breath, steadied her aim, and fired. The silence that followed was heavy as the instructors conferred, their faces unreadable. Her kill count was perfect, flawless, a record none could challenge. The woman who had once been cast aside had conquered the ultimate test, rewriting her destiny with every shot fired. Later that day, she stood before the assembled recruits and instructors, her rifle held proudly. Her story told not in words, but in the cold metal and etched kill count that spoke louder than any speech. She was a symbol of what it meant to fight for every inch of respect, every breath of acceptance. The hallways, once filled with whispers of doubt, now echoed with stories of her legend, inspiring others to push beyond their limits, to fight through rejection and pain. Her presence was a beacon, a reminder that greatness could rise from the ashes of failure. As the sun set, casting long shadows over the training grounds, she looked out over the range, her heart filled with a quiet pride. Her journey was far from over, but she had proven to herself and the world that she was a warrior, a sniper whose kill count told a story of resilience, courage, and unbreakable will. She knew that the battles ahead would be even harder, but with every shot she fired, every target she downed, she carried the legacy of the rejected girl who refused to be silenced. Her rifle was no longer just a weapon, but a testament to the power of perseverance and the strength found in never giving up. The night closed in around her like a cloak as she prepared for the next chapter, ready to face whatever came with the same fierce determination that had carried her this far. She was no longer the past, the doubts, or the rejection. She was the future, the legend, the sniper who spoke in the silent language of bullets and victory. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and red as she stood on the edge of the battlefield, her rifle heavy in her hands, a symbol of the journey that had brought her here. Every scar, every shot, every whispered doubt was etched into the cold metal and the weight of her resolve. The war was far from over, but she was ready, more ready than ever before, to face whatever darkness awaited. The final mission was unlike any she had faced before, a high-stakes operation, deep behind enemy lines, where stealth, precision, and nerves of steel would decide the fate of countless lives. Her team depended on her sharp eyes and steady hand to lead the way through the deadly maze of danger. The kill count on her rifle was not just a record. It was a promise to protect, to fight, and to survive. Moving through the dense forest, the air thick with tension, she felt the familiar rhythm of her heartbeat syncing with the world around her. Every step was measured, every breath. Controlled as she navigated the shadows, the enemy was close, silent, and deadly, watching for any sign of weakness, but she was a ghost, unseen, unheard, a force of nature waiting to strike. The first target appeared, a lone sentry pacing a narrow trail, unaware of the silent threat above. She steadied her aim and fired. The bullet tore through the night, cutting the thread of life in a whisper. The mission was underway, and the kill count began to rise again. Each shot, a declaration of her presence and purpose. Her team moved with precision, coordinating their movements with practiced ease, but the dangers multiplied. The enemy had set traps and ambushes hidden in the underbrush, ready to snare the unwary. She called out warnings, signals, and covered. Fire her rifle, barking out death in swift replies, every shot protecting her comrades. Hours stretched into an endless nightmare of gunfire, shadows, and whispered prayers. The forest seemed to close in around them, a living entity intent on swallowing them whole. But she remained the calm in the storm, the eye of the hurricane, her rifle, an extension of her will and determination. The kill count rose steadily, each enemy downed a step closer to victory. Suddenly, a barrage of enemy fire erupted, forcing them to scatter and find cover. Her heart pounded as she located the source, a heavily fortified position manned by skilled fighters. She knew the next shots would be the most dangerous, yet every breath was a battle, every shot a leap of faith. She took a deep breath, steadied her aim, and fired with deadly precision. Her bullets tore through the chaos, silencing the guns one by one, giving her team the chance to regroup and press forward. The kill count on her rifle soared, a testament to her lethal skill and unbreakable courage. But the battle was far from over, and every victory came at a cost. The cries of the wounded and the weight of loss pressed heavily on her soul. As dawn broke, the forest grew silent, the enemy retreating defeated, but not destroyed. Her body ached. Her mind raced with memories of the night, the shots, the lives saved and lost. The kill count was more than a number. It was a story of sacrifice, resilience, and the relentless fight for survival back at base. She was greeted not with fanfare, but with quiet nods and knowing glances. Her comrades respected her for the warrior she had become, for the unyielding spirit that refused to be broken. The journey from rejection to legend had forged a sniper whose story would be told for years to come in whispered tales around campfires and barracks alike. In the stillness of the night, she sat alone, tracing the cold metal of her rifle. The journey had been long, filled with pain, doubt, and endless struggle, but it had shaped her into something greater than she had ever imagined. The kill count etched on her weapon was a legacy of strength, courage, and unshakable will. She knew the war was far from over. The battles would continue, and new challenges would rise. But she was ready to face the darkness, armed with skilled determination and the fierce fire of a warrior who refused to be silenced. Her rifle was her voice, her shield, and her sword. A promise that every shot fired would carry the weight of her story. As the stars blinked cold and distant overhead, she looked out over the sleeping camp, a quiet smile touching her lips. She was no longer the girl rejected by sniper school, but a legend, carved in shadows and bullets, a warrior whose kill count spoke louder than any words could ever hope to. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. She would face it head-on with unyielding strength and the silent power of a sniper whose story was written in the language of war, victory, and survival.